Once we went to the hospital when we couldn't meet, we went and met her parents. It was really bad. I only knew that there were tubes and pipes and she was swollen because all her organs had failed, and the doctor said she may not survive.
I actually don't know how I went through it. Even today, I don't know what hit us. I just knew that I wanted her back. Limbs or no limbs, I just didn't want her spirit to die. I mean, I wanted her with spirit. And thankfully, we have her today in the same spirit.
Meera said that, let's discuss it internally first. कि क्या है, कैसा है, and then go ahead with it.
Okay. So on that mail, I'm going to say that.
What Appa's written it to you now?
To saying that let's get the.
I was born in 1979, 5th of April. Born in Bangalore, raised here. Fairly very happy childhood. I joined First Source, and in 2012 was when life changed. I was all set for a big promotion.
One of her team members or friends actually introduced me to Shalini, and I think that's when I believe love at first sight. Met up with her. We started seeing each other for almost 2 years. After that, we decided to get married. Shalini being Shalini, the thing about her is that it's usually the man who asks the lady out for marriage, but in my case, it's the other way around. So, and I'm proud to say that. So we did a lot of holidaying, we used to travel. I like photography, wildlife specifically, so she would accompany me with her book and I would be with my camera.
So everything was pretty much going very well for my life. February was when I completed 4 years of my wedding anniversary, and we decided to go on a vacation to Cambodia.
So we got back from our holiday in 2012. We were all fine.
I was pregnant at that point in time as well. So pretty much it ticked every box, if you could say so, in my life.
When we came back, we were all excited with the new member coming into our family.
I came down with a slight fever towards the end of March. Like anybody else, you just think it's pretty normal, and what can a fever do to you? We went and met the doctor a couple of times, and he said it could be a pregnancy-related fever.
One day suddenly she got shivering. What is that, malaria or something? With the blanket and the I controlled shivering. The nurse is the other. Within seconds it's gone. That the temperature is coming and going. So we called Reverend Dancer. And she called her sister. Elder sister is my wife. She came and we took her to the hospital.
She was admitted, put in the ICU. I actually don't know how I went through it.
That's my last memory because I went into the ICU. I woke up pretty much 5-6 days later, but I had no idea that I woke up. I had lost 5 days in my life.
Once she was in the ICU, it was just, an update at 12 o'clock and at 4 o'clock. Our life was standstill. We were just waiting for that 12 o'clock update or the 4 o'clock update. The number of tests, she went through all the tests and she came out negative for everything. We thought it would be dengue, chikungunya, malaria, everything came out negative. So we really didn't know what happened. And we just knew that her organs were failing one after the other.
Her platelets count started dropping drastically. 1st of April is when things went really bad. I think the previous night she had a major heart stopping. They had to literally use the reboot her heart like I jokingly say it. And that's when the doctor said, you know what, you might have to call all her relatives and tell her.
And I still remember the Sunday when, we got a call saying that she's very critical. And they asked all of us to get into the ICU to, see her. Probably they thought she will not survive it. The hospital was full of all her friends.
We were not allowed to see, or rather I was not allowed to go into the hospital because of Prashant. I was pregnant and I did not see Shalu for, I think, till the month of June. I only knew that there were tubes and pipes and she was swollen, and the doctor said there's no, we cannot give you, she may not survive.
So I was very clear in my head that I will not go and see her. I didn't want to see her. So my parents went in, they were in bad shape. I was just outside, determined not to go in and see her. And I was just pulled in by my husband. I just went in, I couldn't bear what I saw. She was all swollen up. And
I still remember when we first met her after her thrombosis of her feet and hand, it was completely going blue because there's no blood circulation. I looked at it and said, I don't care. Just give her alive the way she is. I don't care about how she looks or what she is. I love her for what she is and not for what she looks or how she looks.
So suddenly we got all the friends to give blood and other things to make a place for it. So suddenly it dropped. They told to admitted to the ICU. So finally one doctor told to the Prashant, you call parents, they want this. So from there we lost everything.
it was like we were just waiting to hear, it's all, she's done, and that's it. We were just waiting. I think we went in at about 9-10 o'clock. We were there till waited for the 4 o'clock update.
So suddenly they told, no, it is coming up. Kidney is working proper. Heart pulse is. So
Today she opened her eyes.
She fought it.
But mind you, hats off to her spirit. She just woke up on her birthday.
5th of April, her birthday, I get a call from the hospital and I could see his face. He says, why don't you please come and we need to talk to you about it. Because these 5 days were like, you don't know what's happening. I walk in and there I can see the lovely smile of Shalini.
We run free, stay up late, we don't sleep, got our friends, got the night, we'll be alright. Tonight you won't be by yourself, just leave your problems on the shelf. You don't wanna be nowhere else, so let's go, we got the club like, and all the girls saying, the whole world saying, yeah, come on, let's get drunk, so stand up, we don't give a fuck, we run free.
From there we moved on, they moved me to the ward, and that is when probably reality comes in, and I'm meeting my friends, I'm meeting my family, and I'm getting to hear bits and parts of what really happened in those 5 days, transpired in those 5 days, and put all those little things together. That was when I really knew that I had actually almost died and come back.
We were in the hospital for almost 20 days after that. We moved to the ward. She couldn't walk. She couldn't get down. We didn't know how to break the news to her. To be really frank, I'm the emotional guy in the relationship. She's the much stronger one. The doctor then said, do you want me to get a psychiatrist to break the news? I said, yeah, I wouldn't mind that help.
One of the days then a psychiatrist came up and spoke to me, and he said he'd like to talk to me. And he said, I think your family wants me to talk to you, and we think that because of what has happened to you, that we might have to amputate all your limbs. And at that point in time, I'm thinking, I think the first thing I said to him was that if that is the way it has to be, then that is the way it will be. There is nothing else we can do about it. I'm sure as doctors, you figured what is the best thing that you have to do for me.
And I was like, is this all? I mean, if I would have broken the news, would it be any different? Did I have to call the psychiatrist? Did I have to trouble a doctor for this? That's the spirit in her that's got us so far and will get us into many better places.
I still remember the day I left the hospital, and I had to get out of bed. And for whatever reasons, I don't know why, I told the doctor, I really want to see if I can stand on my feet for some reason. And I tried it, and there was no way I could do it. I sat in the wheelchair and I figured out that what a bad idea it was, because I had no sense, my senses were swimming, and I didn't know it was so difficult to even sit. So we came back home, and I think after that was when the pains kind of started, because there was a lot of swelling. There was, there were blisters pretty much on my leg. I couldn't touch the bed. I couldn't be without touching it. So they had to put pillows and lift my leg up. There was a great deal of actual physical pain. At some point, and maybe a month or so later, was when the gangrene had kind of started to set in, and I could actually smell the rot of my own skin, and that was scary actually, because you're sitting there thinking that, oh my God, like, is this really me smelling? This is just so close home to truth. I remember Prashant and everybody, they put like little incense in the room and all of that. At that point in time, I shut down, and I pretty much told I didn't want to see anybody for some time.
That's when both her hands and legs started rotting, literally, in literal sense. There is no medical person that I've not got in touch globally. I've got in touch with doctors in the US. They said, if you bring her, we will tell you this, give you the same medication. Whatever alternate medication that we need to be looked into, we looked into it.
After that was when Ayurveda happened, a whole new world of opportunities, soul nourishment, positivity came back.
One great person that we came across was Swami Nirmalanandagiri. He's an Ayurvedic doctor in Kerala. I went there and met him. He said, you know what, I have to see Shalini. We took an ambulance.
8 hours in an ambulance where you're just lying down in the ambulance. You can't really move. Again, there were blisters, there were pain. So every bump, it would hurt.
It was the most dreadful journey for us, those 10, 12 hours drive.
We met Swamiji, and the first thing he saw me and he said was, Ellam marum in Malayalam, which means that everything is going to be fine. And I think that one thing was great, because it just it just gives you that something to look forward to and feel that, everything is going to change for you, everything is going to get better for you.
Many of them have given us confidence. It will heal, but the way he says it, the way he does it, I was like, and Shalini, me, her mom, immediately believed in him. His thing helped us a lot, both physically and more than that, emotionally.
then that whole journey of the next 1.5 years was great. Great in the sense that, you know, there was hope, there was faith. You know, there was treatments, there was horrible medication to eat, but you know, we got through that. I had to change my diet, I had to go on a completely vegetarian diet. There was lots of things that I couldn't eat. Through that period in time, you know, I would meet Swamiji every once in 2 months. He would come here, visit me, and that 1 hour interaction was more than enough for me to kind of you know, refuel my I think Ayurveda just didn't fix my body, but it fixed my soul in a lot of sense. So, you know, he would come, he would meet, he would have these long conversations, I would cry, and then he would say, you know, you're going to be fine. It's important that you stay focused on that.
People have come across in our lives during that hardship, and trust me, I don't know how I would have gone through it without those people. And they just fell on our laps. It is not that I had to struggle. Mala being her, like we call her mother, the second mother. And Mala's been with us for 3 years, almost 3 years now, 3-4 years now. I mean, that's the support system that helped us go through that.
When I came back home, and even while I was in the hospital, and when I saw my hands and everything, I mean, I was in a lot of pain. Like, I couldn't actually lift my hand by myself because they were like 3 times or 4 times the size of this. So I actually needed someone. They were always put up on a pillow, and somebody would lift the entire pillow for me.
I mean, her threshold for pain is admirable. The kind of physical pain that she went through, I don't know how she took it.
I just felt that it will just get better. It had to get better. There was no reason why it should not. And of course, over a period in time, you know, the swelling had reduced and the boils started to go away and everything. So there was, somewhere along the line, there was hope that things will change for the better.
Actually, there were points in time, and I have not revealed this to anyone, her sister and I said, why are you keeping her alive? Because the kind of pain, the agony that she went through. At that point, I think my brain took over my heart and said, you know, why are you keeping her alive? Don't take her away. This is not what I asked for her, for the kind of active person. I think she's never been dependent on anyone from the beginning. Not in me, not the parents and thing, and being today, and the kind of pain that she went through during those times. Like she written in the blog, the nose felt it before even the thing. It's like having, you know, rotten flesh at home.
तुझसे नाराज नहीं, जिंदगी हैरान हूँ मैं, ओ हैरान हूँ मैं, तेरे मासूम सवालों से परेशान हूँ मैं, ओ परेशान हूँ मैं, जीने के लिए सोचा ही नहीं, दर्द संभालने होंगे, मुस्कुराए तो मुस्कुराने के कर्ज उतारने होंगे, मुस्कुराऊं कभी तो लगता है जैसे होठों पे कर्ज रखा है, तुझसे नाराज नहीं, जिंदगी हैरान हूँ मैं, हो हैरान हूँ मैं.
It was unimaginable when, you know, for a girl who used to dance, run around, you know, to just kind of put her in one place in a cage is unimaginable. And for a personality like Shalini is like definitely not.
Then in March 2010, 13 was when this hand fractured. Now, while I'd come back home, I still continued to work. I still managed the business that I was from home, and I would knock myself on the computer, on the laptop all the time. So that kind of caused a strain, and it fractured this hand.
The bone literally snapped because the bone is just below the skin, and since it's all gangrenous, the skin was not there, so the bones were exposed.
So I did have this pain for some time in my hand because we used to wrap this up in a little bandage. And like 2 days, and I told Mala that, you know what, I'm having this pain, I'm not really sure what it is. And then she opened the thing, and then for 2 minutes she just looked at me and she said, Madam, I think it broke. And I'm like, what? So then we could actually see that little bone had just cracked open. So then we were not sure. She said, okay, you know what, we'll put it back tightly, so you know it will heal probably.
Amputation is the easy way out. We will try fixing it.
So we went in for a surgery and they decided to amputate that hand. Uncle, we were ready now. Shoot again.
I think it was a good 4-hour surgery, 4-5-hour surgery. When they tried to lift it and put it, the wrist would come apart. They tried putting that, the other wrist would come apart. Then I get a call from the operation theatre, doctor saying, you know what, Prashant, we tried, you know, we need to go ahead with amputation. I said, I mean, I'm okay with the doctor. I mean, you leave your fate with the doctors, and if you believe that that's the right way to do it, that's the right way to do it.
Amputating this was a bit of was like taking a step back, because then it all became the focus of having to save this one hand. And then in August 2013, this one fell off. This hand just auto-amputated off. It was like a sharp shooting pain that went right from my shoulder. And I said, ow! I did that, and then it was amazing. It just fell off. Delete all that. It's only 5 minutes video. What now?
No, but this all will be there.
And then Prashant's brother, you know, we called him and told him, and वो भाग के आ रहे हैं, बोल रहे, अरे फ्रिज में डालो, maybe they can fix it back. And I'm like, no, it can't really work like that. This wait, this long drawn 1.5-2 year wait is over, because you know we were waiting for something to change. We were waiting for a miracle. We were waiting to be healed. And when that didn't happen, for me, maybe it was just that point that, okay, this is done. I can move on to the next phase of my life. So we called Swamiji, we told him what had happened. He said, I would come down. And he said, yeah, you know, I had a lot of hope that this might work, and it didn't. So he said, yeah, maybe, you know, amputation is the way forward. In some ways, maybe it was a sign for you to move forward, a sign to say that, okay, this is done, you move on to the next phase of your life. And I also think that this hand, right now I have this little thing that I use for my phone, for my laptop, and I actually have, and people don't realize it, that this is your part that gives you sensation. You didn't look at amputation as 2 steps backward, you looked at it as 2 steps forward, because it finally meant that it was over and we were actually consciously making the decision towards the next. 4th floor. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
It was not an easy battle for her too. It was definitely not an easy battle for her. She was the one who gave us the strength, actually. It was her strength that pushed us forward, I think. Otherwise, if she was not strong, I don't think she would be in this place today.
What's up, bro?
Rock and roll, man.
For me, amputation in that sense, well, I really went for my leg amputation. It wasn't sadness, or it wasn't, for me it was about, okay, you know, it's done. It actually means I can wear prosthetic legs and actually get back my life. So we went in for amputation. We met Dr. Ananteshwar and Manipal, and we went. So when we went first, we met him. He said, you know what, we'll do one leg at a time, and then we'll move on to the other leg. And I said, there's no way I'm going to put myself through 2 surgeries. Okay, I will go in there. He said, no, what about complications? I said, I don't think there will be any complications. We will go ahead and chop both the legs off because I want it done, dusted, finished in one shot, healed, and then I move on, because I didn't want to finish one surgery, wait for it to heal after 1 month, go back into the hospital, cut this leg and wait another. So I've lost 2 months of time. This will heal automatically and I'm done. And I had faith that it would all just turn out okay. So because I was kind of confident, he said, okay, fine, we'll do that.
Like she's written in a blog, if my legs have to go, it has to go in style. So we painted her nails in bright purple, so that if it has to go, it will go in style. It will not go like any other thing.
She was bedridden. A lot of things happened in our lives where, you know, she couldn't be actively involved. I'm sure it affected her a lot. And then the amputation happened, and then constantly all of us were pushing her. I mean, we ensured that none of us cried in front of her. I mean, I used to cry by myself, but never in front of her. Always pushed her and said, we will get through it. Amputation, amputation.
And it was very painful, obviously, you know, they cutting off limbs, it's a lot of pain, because they actually have to chop your bone off, your muscle off, and then stitch you up and everything. So it was really painful. It was, but it was nice because they just gave you painkillers and you're in that good world and you're just floating in the air for 5 days, and then they kind of reduce your painkillers over a period in time. But I think maybe the Ayurveda helped my system heal pretty quickly. I think I'm very thankful for that.
All the moments that Shalini and I have shared, the hardest one is the time when she just talks of the space that she is in right now. You know, sometimes the limitations that she's got. I mean, when you have an active mind and you're trapped in your body, you know, you have all this thoughts running in your head. And I think the hardest one that hit me was the moment she got really. One of the standing discussions, and she was all teary and upset, and she says that my mom thinks that my mom's always praised that I go before her. You know, I know mom's got to say that. You know, being a mom myself, that kind of puts a lot of things in perspective. Saying that for a mother to kind of say, "I wish my daughter goes before me," you know, it's huge. That's hard.
Did you know what disease she had when she went into?
No. No. We don't know. We didn't know what it is, and I think the doctors also didn't know what was happening.
There were 2-3 things that happened to me simultaneously. One was I was pregnant, right? So immunity low, blah, 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 blah. Second was that my system went into a...
Antiphospholipids.
So there's something called as an antiphosphorus lipid syndrome that happens, which is typically what happens in a pregnancy state, is that your body starts to clot on its own, and it typically tends to kill the baby and then clots the entire body of the mother. That's how antiphosphorus lipid syndrome works. The third thing was that my body went into an overdrive. Instead of protecting my body, it started to fight. It started to fight against my organs. So it was a combination of all those things that worked against us.
After that, I think life has been in an upward trend for us. Hiccups here and there. I mean, it's not that, you know, we'll be smiling throughout the year. We have our own emotional downtimes, but those are small. Those are getting shorter and shorter compared to our happier moments.
I saw only those 2 rooms for 2 years. I would either be in my bed or somebody would carry me and move me to that room where I would sit in front of the television. Or from there they would carry me and put me into the balcony. So that was the only place I saw. I hadn't even seen this room till about a year back. For me it was clearly a logical decision at that point in time, because for me I had spent 2 years in bed. I was done waiting. So for me it was just about getting the job done and moving on.
Then we got around to prosthetics. I still remember we wanted to celebrate New Year's Eve in my sister's farmhouse, and we said, she said, no, I want it now. And they were like, no, we can't give it to you now. You're not practiced yet. She said, no, I want it now. As simple as that. What do you want me to do? Run? I'll run for you for that. And he's like, no, please don't do that.
The first time I wore them, it's a different feeling altogether, because it's attached to your body. It's not part of you. Initially, yes, there was a lot of swelling. There's a lot of discomfort. So initially, I would only wear my leg for an hour and then remove it. But as the first day I got my leg, I said that let's go. Yahan pe there's a park here. So I said, let's go to the park. So then Prashant was like, car leke jayenge. I said, nahi, why? I'll walk. And everybody is having this look on their face, maybe not a smart idea. So we walked. It's about 400-500 meters from here. So we walked to the park, and it's probably another 400-meter radius park. And we walked there, and I did 1 round, and then Prashant said, bas, chale ghar. And then I said, no, I can do this. I'll do 3 rounds. 3 rounds I did, and 3 rounds I'm like, Then he was like, okay, you'll wait here, you're okay. I said, no, I'll walk back. So I walked, and you will not believe it, I got stuck on that road, which is like maybe 200 meters away from my house. And I just couldn't put 1 step in front of me. I can see my house. And there was no way I could reach that 200 meters. And I'm telling myself, Shaz, this is just 200 meters. It's about just putting your 1 leg in front of the other. And my body would just not cooperate. And then I cried. I stood in the middle of the road, I cried, I broke down, and I said, I can't walk, I will never be able to walk in my life, this is the end of my life and everything. And then Prashant went, he brought the car, I sat in the car, I came here, I cried, abhi mere se kabhi, I'll never be able to walk and all of that.
Shalini's been a very active person. I still remember when, before all this happened, she would wake up in the morning, try to wake me up to go to her aerobics. And I would say, yeah, I'm waking up. And she said, you don't have to come with me, just go for a walk around here. I said, yeah, you get ready. I would wake up, pretend as though I'm wearing my shorts and thing. Once she's out, I hit the sack again.
After that was then we said that, okay, we will walk inside the house. And we started just walking from one room to the other. I would walk to the balcony, come back, and we did the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we decided that then we had to do smaller goals. See, it's not easy, because, like I told you, I used to walk like a little duck when I started. So it comes with practice. And I did a lot of practice. I think one of the things that I was very conscious about was the fact that I wanted to walk properly. I didn't want to walk like a disabled. I don't know if that is that the right thing to say. But I wanted to walk in such a way that nobody would realize that I was disabled. And that happens now. People don't realize I wear prosthetic legs. Unless you're someone who's known me from the past or something like that, somebody who meets me now, because when I went for this recently, there was this whole dance for the disabled. There was this support group that does, and I went for that. So I was standing there, and a lot of people came, spoke to me. I was wearing like a dress, whatever, nobody. And then one of the girls came, and then she was introducing me to someone, and she said, "Hey, this is Shalini," and she said she's a bilateral amputee. And then she looked at me and said, "Oh, really?" So, and then I'm like, "Yeah." But you couldn't make out. So it's about how you really, it's about you have to tell yourself that this is what you want to do, and you want to practice, and you want to be able to walk, and then that whole 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 helps.
I mean, thank God for the fact that she didn't kind of recline and say, "Okay, my life's over. That's it. I'll just stay put in my room. Don't have limbs. I don't have anything to look forward to. I'll just stay put." I'm very thankful that it didn't happen. She was clear. She wanted to go ahead in life.
Stretch your arms as much as possible and push your shoulders down. Flat back diagonal. Stretch the back. Breathe in, breathe out. Very good. Both your hips turn to the center only, even as you go into your flat back diagonal. Open your hips and drop down. Center and hold it there. Hold it there. Breathe in, breathe out. Nice long spine.
So she's always been active, very active. Dance classes, to aerobics, to Kathak, to salsa classes. She being active, we wanted to continue. And also with prosthetics, you should maintain your activities, stay below a certain weight limit, because it would help in your prosthetics, fitting you properly, being able to walk properly.
Then it was for me about being able to walk longer distances. I would initially I would walk only up and down this road, and I remember when it's a slight incline in front of my house, so I would then started to do around this. So I'd go on this road, go out to the back road, and then do. So I started with 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, and then I got to a point where I would do 4 or 5 rounds. And then this stretch up here, it's an incline. So I know that I would walk 4 steps, I would gasp because I couldn't walk, and then there were a point where I know I had to reach the gate, and then I would do the whole duck, would be like an aggressive duck, because I just want to get to the gate. I just want to finish my 4. So for me, then I realized that it was about then stamina, the fact that you should be able to walk 4 rounds or 6 rounds around this house without really, that shouldn't happen. And that's when we said that, okay, let's get into the gym, or let's figure that out.
So we searched around to find the right person to train her, and we've hit quite a few gyms to trying to figure out a thing. Everyone who sees her, because nobody's worked with someone like Shalini.
We went to the HSR club. I climbed on the treadmill, and then I realized that I don't have anything to hold, right? I can't hold that thing. So then I'm like, I walked for a bit and I was all over the place, and I was like, oh my God, this is just not the right thing. So then he said, okay, ma'am, do you want to sit on the cycle? So then I sat on the cycle, and then I realized that I can't do the whole thing because the leg doesn't bend back. Then I said, arey, ye bhi nahi hoga. So he said, then do you want to try the cross trainer? Cross trainer was again the same problem. I don't have the hand to do this. So then you're like, arey, this is just not working for me. Then he did maybe do a few floor exercises, but to be fair to him, He has not seen somebody like me. He's never worked with somebody like me.
That's when one of our friends introduced to Coach Ayappa.
Guys, double stepping forward and go sideways. Okay?
We met him and I kind of liked him. Like, you know, he was open to the idea and he was very honest and he said, see, I've never worked with somebody like you, but we can figure this out. And that for me was a positive thing.
Initially, when first I met her, it was really a shocker for me. I told Shalini that we can do a lot of things with her, but still it was going behind my mind what best I can do for her.
He made me do like 3 rounds around the stadium. I did 1.5 and I'm dying. So I'm like, can I stop? Can I please stop? And he said, no, you'll have to finish your 3 rounds.
Initially, when she came to me, she didn't have any blades or anything. She was wearing a normal leg, which she could not even walk properly.
For the first 1 year, that's all we did. We did just walking. So he would, and then he would watch me, and then again, it's the same thing. When I'm very tired, I would be swaying, and then he would say, stop swaying, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm like, I have to be conscious of it.
I told Shalini that we can do a lot of things with her, but still it was going behind my mind what best I can do for her.
And then he would make me run shorter distances, and then he would push me to go a little more faster. I used to not wear the blades, I used to wear the same legs, but we had started running. So it was about, you know, you'll do 1 round, 2 round, whatever, but it was really slow running.
So first thing I had to do is I had to change her mind. You know, I had to put that sportive thing in her mind and turn her mind into a sportsman. That was the first initial thing which I did for her. And once she joined with all the elite athletes who were training with me, her mind also changed, and that was the first thing we did.
I never walked the same distance every day. If today I would have one day where he would say, you'll have to do 10 rounds today. And then there was another day where I would just have to do 5, and then he'll give me something else to do. So it was a lot of variation, because I knew that one day he would push me really hard. So I started doing 5 kilometers then in terms of walking itself. So that 5 kilometers in the stadium is 12.5 rounds. So for me it was also that time that he would time me and say that, okay, last time we did the 5 kilometers in 1 hour 20 minutes, you'll have to do that now in 1 hour 10 minutes.
I didn't differentiate between her and the athletes, so I put on with my athletes, and however I treat my athlete very strictly, I was also very strict with Shalini.
Oh, the way she used to train herself. She pushes herself. And coach never used to treat her any differently. I still remember we were like, I think 5 minutes late one day, because one of those Bangalore winter days, and he says, sorry, 5 rounds, 5 minutes late, 5 rounds. And she's looking up, sorry, you're 5 minutes late. If you're expecting me to treat you any differently, you come to the wrong place. That's the attitude I liked about coach.
My mom used to get very, because I will do everything and I will be in pain. Mala and my mother would be all like, Mala used to be very angry. What does he think of himself, right? He knows you're like this, so why does he have to push you so much? And you should just tell him that, you can't do it. Doing the marathon was a wake-up call, because then they figured out that, oh my God, it has actually paid off. Now Amma is the one who says that, go to the stadium, no? You're not going to the stadium? That no, coach will shout at you. So she knows it is a lot more serious now. Prashant was more like, you should just tell him that, you can't do it, or you're in pain and stuff like that. But I knew saying anything like that to coach was an impossibility. Like, he would just say, okay, theek hai, go. So he would say that it's paining. Acha, that means you're doing it correctly. Go on. That was his stance. Make noise when I walk or not? Because I know I'm like, I feel that, but that's why. Should you or should you not? coach didn't know I was going to get the blades on. It was a surprise for him. Because all the time, you know, through that, he's been behind my life ki blade kab loge, blade kab loge, blade kab loge. And I used to always tell him ki coach blade ke liye 25 lakhs padta hai. मैं कहीं पे site लेके घर बना देती हूँ. So and he used to always laugh. He said, you can't run with the legs, right?
3 weeks before the marathon, one day we wear the blades and we just walk into the stadium.
So I walked in that day into the stadium. He was there and he's just looking at me and he's like, oh my God, you're here with the blades. And I said, yeah, I said, it's a surprise for you. So that day we kind of ran very slowly and I figured that when I was running that this felt really good. Like, you know, it had just changed the running experience for me so much.
He didn't have any goal. So I gave her a goal telling that, okay, now within another 1 year, we'll be running the 10 kilometers, which is going to happen, the 10K run, which is going to happen.
So it was completely coach's decision to want to run the marathon. So he always used to make fun of me and say that, you know, we'll put you on to this marathon, we'll put you on to that marathon. And he used to make me do the 5 kilometers every time. Right from the start, he'd be like, you know, 5 kilometers karna hai, 5 kilometers karna hai. So he was very keen on it right from the start.
She was completely, you know, shocked and she's, how can I run 10 kilometers? She was completely shocked. But I put it to her mind telling that we have, whatever it is, we have to finish, that should be our goal. Then she became a little serious.
I'm a person who likes to be pushed, I like to be challenged. So it worked for me very well. For me, having somebody challenge me and tell me that you have to do this in 1 hour 5, मेरे को वो खुन्नस आ जाता है कि करके दिखाना है types, you know, बहुत वो हो जाता है. So for me it worked.
She said, if I'm doing the marathon, I'm doing the 10K general. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. I will run 10 kilometers somewhere for myself because it's my satisfaction, my coach's satisfaction. I will do it somewhere else, probably, you know, on another day. But if I'm doing it, I'm doing the 10K. That's the spirit I liked about her.
I finished the marathon in about 2 hours.
And it was a wonderful effort. She took it in a very positive way and she ran a very good race and she could finish very strongly. That's the best part in her because she is a great fighter.
We started off the marathon. I think the last 100 meters was the most emotional for me. I think all my pain, my body ache, my pain just disappeared just looking at her trying to just complete the 10K. But once she crossed the line, it was emotions for me that, I mean, I can't explain. Trust me. That's why I just put it in words, in 2 words that, you know, tears rolled down my eyes. It is not about her being able to do the 10K. It is about where she was, what she went through, how she completed it. That whole 4 years of our life just flashed by me in 5 seconds.
It was the first time for all of us, so none of us expected for her to be so dehydrated.
Yeah.
So her first 6 kilometers, she was fine. After that, she knew she was kind of slowing down and she just kept saying, I'm sorry, coach. I'm sorry, coach. She just really wanted to finish it in an hour and 30 minutes. And the coach is saying, it's fine, just finish it. So after that, we were very clear, she was just supposed to finish the race. But then she just went non-stop. I'm sorry, coach. I'm sorry, coach.
And then I had to kind of really rethink this and say that, you know, who am I running this race for? Am I running this for other people or am I doing this for myself? And that was a wake-up point because I said, this is for myself. Forget everybody else that's there in the picture. then that was when I said, coach, you know what, we'll finish this.
And then when that, I think they announced the winner and they wanted to give her the, cup, and they said, no, Shalini is very tired, so she will not be coming. I knew there was something seriously wrong, and I'm sitting there in Goa. Finally, I got hold of my brother-in-law, and he said they're in the hospital and she's dehydrated and stuff like that.
Then I remember being in the hospital, and then I opened my eyes and मैं ऊपर देख रही हूँ ना वो false ceiling वाला square हो रहा है. I opened my eyes and I'm like, where am I? And then I'm like, hospital, and I'm like, don't tell me I'm back in a hospital. So I was like, oh no. Then I opened my eyes and I'm looking at my hands and I'm like, okay, ठीक है, everything is okay. And then after this, there was a senior doctor who came and was talking to me and everything. And then he said, you know, then the doctor said, I ran the marathon too. And I said, oh, okay. And he said, you know, I'm so proud of you and everything. And then he said, can I take a selfie with you? And that was when I'm like sitting there and thinking, oh, really? And then the whole doctors and nurses, everybody came and took a little picture with me. Then if you're not smiling, what did you do now?
Hand up. Okay.
Put your left hand up. Right hand up.
What a compensation. Thank you, Leena.
It's not back.
Strong, very, very strong. And now we are very proud about her.
Personally, I think I could have done a lot much better than what I did. But yeah, nevertheless, there's always going to be more times. Every day can be a different challenge and every marathon can be a different challenge.
2020, she should be in the Olympic team. That's our goal now. Both of us, personally, we are working towards it. And the best part is, she's so motivated and she motivates other athletes also. So she's a big inspiration for all the athletes, even my athletes, and all over India, I feel she's a big inspiration.
A lot of people have told me that, you know, you're meant for bigger things in life and all that. पर मेरे को ये भगवान का फंडा समझ में नहीं आया. यार ठीक ही कर लेते, मैं फिर भी अच्छा कर लेती. ये जरूरत नहीं क्या थी. The point was, if you wanted me to serve a higher purpose, हाथ पैर रख के भी कर सकती थी. But maybe not. Like maybe there could be a reason why. There could be.
She loves dancing. She loves dancing. In fact, her old dance instructor, good friend of ours, Lud Vijay, he's been now saying, now you've got your blades, you've done your 10K, now let's dance together. I think that's one of the things I think is on her mind. I think she wants to do her next dance performance with him.
I do Pilates thrice a week. I try and go dancing at least twice a month, twice or thrice a month. I always catch a music show.
Big fan of A.R. Rahman. We have this fight always. I like pulling her leg. Oh yeah, okay. And she was like, no way, how can you say that? Are these lines of divorce? I will divorce you on these lines and things of that. She's gone to that extent. I'm not kidding. She's gone to that extent.
Everything where life takes us along, you know, there's no point in making these big plans for yourself because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow with your life. So I'm somebody who's learned it the hard way and in the nicest of ways, that you learn to live for today, you live in today's moment, and you enjoy everything that you possibly have in your life today. Make the best of it, because you really don't know how life's going to turn out tomorrow. So that's my biggest learning for me.
If you know Shalini well, you don't expect anything from her in terms of achieving something, because I'm sure if you expect, she will achieve much more than that, and you will demean yourself. So I do not expect anything from her. I just expect the emotional support that she's giving me from all this while.
I think Prashant has been the best thing that has happened. There's no doubt about that. I don't think, I think he was very supportive through the entire period, and I think, you know, there was like they name the treatment and he would be there, he would try to find out what it was. So I think we held each other's back through this entire process, and I think it's been a good journey, and you know, we've helped each other through this entire phase. So it's all good. It's all good. So I think like like I said, no, he's that big banyan tree in your life that gives you shelter, is rooted, is there for you no matter, you can go however far you want and come back, and that banyan tree still exists for you. So he's there, he's no matter what is there for you.
That's something you'll never.
I know, see, I always say कि मैं नहीं रोऊंगा, फिर भी रो जाता हूँ. मैं काजल.
There we go.
It's very hot. Can we switch the light off? Okay.
We are looking at most of the Paralympic para events which is going to be held in India and Asia. That will be our target at present now.
I know coach has been pushing her for the Tokyo 2020 and I talked to her. I said, do you want to seriously do it? She says, it's 2020, 4 years down the line. Let's figure it out today. Tomorrow if we wake up, we're fine. We'll see that when the day 2020 comes.
She is an inspiration for everybody. I think looking at her, all the people who are staying in the house has to come out and run. Run and live long.
When somebody asks me who inspired me to be who it is, I don't see this as inspiration. This is just me being me. My soul has still remained intact. For me, my inspiration, I would say, was just the fact that I wanted to just continue to be who I am. I still wanted to be the fun person that I am, and it's just the will to live. It's about not being able to give up on your own self. I was saying this to somebody else the other day. When something like this happens, you always have two choices. One is to, be all sad and say, oh my God, this has happened to me. Itna bada hadsa hua hai, my life has changed, God was so mean, fate is so bad. What am I going to do with my life? And, beat yourself about it day in and day out. Or, you have the option to say, okay, this is done and dusted. What do I want to do with my life? I want to move ahead. So I just choose to move ahead with my life.
She always dreamt big. Always dreamt big. She wanted to achieve a lot.
The amazing thing about all of this is you do not realize how powerful your mind is. And I believe everything is in here for you. If you think about wanting to do something, or the power of your mind to do something is outstanding, and I've learned that the hard way.